All right, ladies, so here's just a quick overview of Michelangelo. We're doing the fresco painting for week 17 already for Great Artists, cycle 1. And just showing you the materials that we kind of I had mentioned and talked about it at the meeting a little bit. I added in watercolor paints too to just give you more options. But I've tested this out, and so just want to show you some options of what to do for Monday. So we have the artwork pieces that are in the folder already. So the Sistine Chapel, obviously, and all these little scenes that are telling the story. And then some of the sculptural pieces of Michelangelo's. And then here's a detail piece also. So you can talk about color and just that depth. So I did 3 example pieces on the plaster of what you might do for the painting subject of kind of a rainbow for maybe the younger kids, doing kind of thinking about a background scene, and an opportunity for them to mix paint colors. I'll show you that in just a second. And then another landscape, or perhaps you want to work on kind of those robes and folding of fabric to get that depth of feel of light and darker, and maybe divide that up with a little architectural element. Or you could do that with anything, or just, I will have all 3 of these examples in each of the labs so that you can show this to students and they can choose to do what they'd like to, or if you want to direct them in a specific way, that would be fine too, but so that you can look at those examples and see where those things are coming from. So what you'll have, and I will, for the younger lab, for both of the labs, I'll have the palettes set up already. So as opposed to dry cake watercolor, we have little tubes of watercolor paint. It just gives us richer color, and it's easier to mix up, and it doesn't need as much water. And so they've already got this one set up with just, you don't even squeeze it. It's just hardly a little dab of paint goes in there, and that's it. That's all you need. We're going to add water to that. So I have the 3 primary colors, the red, the yellow, and the blue. And then I put, to make the secondary colors, I put a dab of red and a little bit of blue. And that one's going to be our violet. And between the blue and the yellow, some yellow and a little bit of blue to make our green. And then between the yellow and the red is a little bit of red and yellow to make our orange. And I will have the first class already set up for each of the labs, and then I will help with the second and third class in those labs to get the palette set up. And so we will just fill these up. I have just this little thing here, but I've got the eyedroppers of clean water, and we're just going to fill it up just halfway is all you need for each of those. But to not mix them up yet, so students can mix up the colors themselves. And then just taking, and there'll be clean water on the tables, and 2 small brushes, because we don't need a lot of water, but small tip brushes is what we'll be using. And so you could talk about the primary colors. I will have those filled in color wheels that we've used in previous lessons. Those will be available in each of the labs. And paper towel to dry off, but just swirling it around and mixing that color up. It mixes up pretty quick and easy. Okay, just so you get the idea of that. And you could talk about with the younger kids of what those secondary and primary colors are, kind of reintroducing the color wheel. Again, we haven't talked about it a lot this year. Okay, but that's what that looks like. This one I just already have mixed up. And now the plaster part. This is the same plaster Paris that we use for science in week 15. I just have burlap in it on the foam trays, and it's already taken care of. I already have them all set up for everybody. And they're are each in plastic bags so that they are still moist. They've recently been mixed up, and you can see this one has the water, little droplets in there, so that they are firm enough to be painted on, but they are still moist so that they're absorbing that paint into it fresco style. But the burlap gives it structure if anyone asks. You know, after they take it home, they can cut it out if they want, or they could put a mat board on it and frame it, you know, just as is, however. Okay, but so 1 for each student, and then there's also 1 for each tutor, also if you want to demonstrate these different techniques. So for making the rainbow, you know, they could use just bigger brushes and mix up their colors and just paint them on each. Very simple and straightforward. But an opportunity to talk about color and do painting. And here I've done just some simple with the really skinny brush, little blue in the background to make lines and clouds. And I'll show you the colored watercolor pencils. Those are also available to add detailed lines in. That's what you see here. And then I just went over with clear water and rubbed it a little bit, and that blurs the watercolor pencil like paint. We'll do that on this one real quick before we do anything else. So I've already used the green here to mix it up and add in lines, and then you can just add water to that to help blur that edge, just like watercolor painting, and smooth it out. But you could also use the watercolor pencils to add in more crisp lines of details or highlight edges. Things like that. Okay? If you wanted to blur them again, you can just go over them and kind of work them with the brush a little bit, and they are paint, so they will blend in. Or you can use the other brush, which scrubs a little bit more.